Hey there, Aubrey. What's going on?
I am great, Lindsay. How are you?
Good. What are we talking about today on the show?
I have a question for you. This is
Okay.
interesting. This is related to the task two topic we will brainstorm for you guys today. Lindsay, do
Okay.
you think that people are less original today than when we were young?
Kind of, yes. I kind of do because I think maybe there's a bit more of like a what do you call like a hive mind because people see other people on social media and the
Yeah,
trends spread faster,
for
right?
sure. Echo
So,
chambers.
yeah, I kind of think so.
People following the trends. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
probably.
interesting. We're going to dive into this today. A student reported a difficult IELTS task two question from December 2025. Today,
hmm
we're going to share a sample brainstorm for this complex essay question. And
Yeah.
then, stay to the end, we are going to share the fully written out body paragraphs for this essay that would score band 9.
Nice. Guys, before you do anything, hit the follow button right here on the show. And you can catch this episode over on YouTube. So if you prefer to watch us and learn that way, hit subscribe on the IELTS Energy YouTube channel. It's called IELTS Energy TV, is what it's called. All right.
Yes, absolutely. Then you can see us. You can see Lindsay's fun new background.
Yeah, and it's a real background. I'm in a new place recording today, so mixing it up a little bit. So
I know. I was
fun.
I was saying it almost looks like a fake Zoom background. It's so nice, but it's a real place.
It's a real
It's
place.
funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
Goes to
All
show
right.
how impressive the fake Zoom backgrounds are. They always
I
look they're pretty
know.
impressive,
I'm,
right?
I'm, I'm sure they'll get better and better too. That by
Absolutely.
next year we will not be able to tell if they're fake or
Exactly,
real. Yeah,
right?
it's true. But we don't do
Okay,
fake.
so
We don't do fake
yeah.
anything on All Ears English. So
No, we don't. If you see a background from us, it's all that's why mine
not
has
fake.
nothing right now because
Yes,
it's this is
that's
really what's
right.
behind me.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, let's dive into it. So this does sound like a complex question. If I were asked something like this, this kind of
It
question,
is
wow.
tricky. You want to read it for
Mhm.
us?
Yeah. It's a task two again. Some people today argue that media has become increasingly unoriginal. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Hmm.
Yes. And I think what makes this trickiest is if it said social media, then I think students would be
Yeah.
like, oh, I have something to say about that. But
Yeah.
often when we just hear the media, we think like news
Or
stations, I
T or
guess,
movie
or
movies, I guess.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
it could be lots of different things, right? So this is
Yeah.
interesting. The
Yeah.
first thing to know is you can talk about social media if a question asks about media, right? You don't have
Yes.
to answer about every form of media. That would be impossible, right? You are deciding whether you agree or disagree. And for
hmm
this question, you could focus on social media, which definitely would be the easiest thing to do when it
hmm
comes to discussing whether it's original or not.
I think focus on what you know because that's where you're going to
Exactly.
get examples, ideas. You're going to feel more confident in what you're writing, better vocabulary, Aubrey, right?
Yeah, you certainly could write about whether films are original or TV shows or the news. But if you feel like you're more familiar with social media, write about that. Absolutely.
Okay. What else do we need to know here?
All right, so brainstorming, we're kind of focusing on the brainstorming for this here.
Yeah.
This is, 5 minutes. You take about 5 minutes for task two. And
Okay.
the initial stage is really the most crucial. You need those ideas, you need specific details before you ever start writing. It's going to save you a lot of time.
Yeah. You need personal examples, experience. You need societal observations, right, Aubrey?
Absolutely. Yes, it can
Yeah.
be personal examples, societal observations as well. And this, you're creating the structure for your body paragraphs as you come up with these ideas, right?
Okay.
And then once you have like your opinion, your solid idea, then it's easier to come up with specific details, right?
hmm
And you
hmm
don't want to waste, precious time thinking of the perfect idea or the perfect example, because as
Yeah.
we said, give yourself that 5 minutes. You don't want to go over that because you need time to write the essay.
It's a certain kind of discipline, right, in writing a task two essay that, again, as we've been saying lately, the first time writing a test two essay is not test day, right? You've
Right.
practiced it many, many times with hopefully a course, a system, a strategy. And it's a discipline of grabbing the first good idea that comes to mind and running with that because you know it's good enough, right?
Exactly, right? A lot of students will submit an essay for feedback and it will be very impressive. And then I'll ask
Mm.
how long it took, and they're like, 4 hours.
Oh no,
Like,
that's never going to work
oh,
on
we got to
test
get
day.
that down to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. So,
All
yes,
right.
write down the first good idea that comes to mind. If
Mm-hmm.
you immediately think of a better one that you can come up with better details or examples, okay, write that down. But you
Okay.
don't want to do the full brainstorm and then, ooh, I thought of a better one. Stick with what you've got, right? As long
No,
as you
yeah.
can support it, it's a good idea.
Okay, good. So let's do an example then, a sample task to brainstorm. If we were going to try to answer this question, what would come to mind, Aubrey?
Yeah, so this is interesting because I have a feeling that you would have answered this question differently than I did, Lindsay. I kind of sketched out a
Mm,
brainstorm here, so we'll
yeah,
go through mine. But
yeah.
just off the top of your head, which side of this would you agree with?
Yeah, I think it's true that things are. I'm trying to read the question again. Yeah, I agree. Yes, it would be. Things have become on media increasingly unoriginal in
Yeah,
media.
and I don't disagree, right? I
Yeah,
definitely feel like I could, and this is sometimes this will happen where your opinion could go either way. So
right.
just choose one, clearly state your opinion, don't go back and forth. That's part of the score, is that your
Hmm.
opinion stays consistent throughout the essay. Sometimes I'll
Yeah.
see students write an essay and they state one opinion in the beginning,
Oh
but
no.
then as they come up with details, they sort of change their mind and it's
Ooh,
different by the conclusion. That's fine in real life. In fact, that's an
sure.
interesting conversation. That doesn't work for IELTS essays because the
Mm,
score requires your opinion to stay consistent throughout.
that's a discipline again, right
Hmm.
there. Yep. Okay, what else, Aubrey? First
Okay,
body
so yeah, let's go
paragraph.
through this.
Yeah.
So for this
Hmm.
task to brainstorm, the first thing is your main idea, right?
Okay.
And the opinion is pretty clear here whether it's
Hmm.
either people are unoriginal on whatever you choose. For us, we're going to focus on social media,
Okay.
or right, people are original. So we're starting with that. People are unoriginal on social media.
Okay.
And then we're going to start thinking of our ideas. The first thing that came to mind for me was TikTok trends, where
Uh-huh.
millions of people will use the same sound
Oh,
and do
I
the same
know.
dance to the same choreography.
Yeah,
Also,
what is
cover songs I was thinking of. So many bands don't write any original music or just don't perform their own music and just do covers.
interesting. I don't quite get the whole TikTok trend thing where people repeat trends that other people are doing, but I guess it is sort of like the cover song, as you
It's
said.
kind of similar, right? It's something
Yeah.
everyone else already knows and is familiar with.
Yeah.
And it's interesting though, because people will try to sort of do their own take on it,
Right,
be a little
right.
bit innovative, but definitely
Add the
following
personality.
trends.
Yeah.
But this
Yeah.
is interesting. As you're doing this brainstorm, you want to glance back to the topic as you're
Hmm.
writing down your ideas because it's very easy to get off track. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you're sort of not directly answering the question. So don't forget, as you're doing this brainstorm, check back. Okay, make sure my ideas are still on task here. So,
Yeah.
first thing, now that we just have sort of our main idea, our opinion, first body paragraph is a
Hmm.
reason to agree. So for me, we have just this, either people are unoriginal or original. I'm going to decide in the intro which my opinion would be. And
Hmm.
I had chosen the opposite of you, actually, Lindsay. And
Okay.
so I was going to say, yes, people follow trends, but there's still more original content, right?
Interesting.
So in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
first body paragraph, the way we like to structure these argument essays where you give
Hmm.
both sides is to first share the side you don't agree with, right? With a reason, some details that someone might agree there, and then
Hmm.
share the side that you do agree with, right?
Got it. So how would you start that first body paragraph then? What would it
Yeah,
look like?
so I'm just jotting down ideas. This is still the brainstorm, right? I'm thinking trends on social media platforms, right? Different
Hmm.
versions of the same video. And then I would
Hmm.
want to come up with an example. And
Yeah.
I immediately thought of Taylor Swift released her latest album.
Okay.
My feed, TikTok was just flooded with videos of people dancing to Opalite.
Okay.
And I looked this up. TikTok reported there were 3 million videos
Oh
of
my
people dancing to the
gosh.
same choreography to this one song. 3 million.
Wow, that's amazing. And so interesting. So you're going to take this in
Yes.
the direction of it is original because it's new
No,
creations.
so this is that first body paragraph where
Okay,
I'm
got it.
supporting the other side of the argument
Oh,
that
okay.
you would have agreed with,
Okay, okay,
right?
okay,
That
okay,
like,
got it.
yes, there's a lot of unoriginal content because an
Hmm.
argument essay, you support both sides, but then you say which you agree with, right?
Okay,
So I would
perfect.
use this to support that side.
Okay.
And this is actually an accurate statistic. I looked it up, 3 million. But if you don't know the number and you want to share your thinking of something that that was repeated a lot
Hmm.
on TikTok, you could make up a number here as long as it's believable. You can create a statistic,
Yeah, and
right?
also make it sound believable. Like use this structure. No one's gonna, sue you or
Absolutely.
anything like
No,
by
doesn't
saying,
matter.
Facebook or Instagram reported that this happened. X
Exactly.
number of, it's fine. It's fine.
Exactly, right? Take a guess. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
known. I actually would not have guessed 3 million. I maybe would have
Hmm.
said 1 million or a
Right.
100,000
3
even.
million. Oh
And
my
that would be fine
gosh.
too. If you put that, even if the examiner knows there were more, it doesn't matter at all. That'll never
Hmm.
lower your score.
Yeah, love it. Okay, then we transition into paragraph two, right? Which is the
Hmm.
opposite side of the
It's the
perspective.
opposite
Yeah.
side. This is the one where I
Okay.
would express my opinion, right?
Yeah.
So what I would share is that everyone still seeks to be original, that there are far more videos of new content because people
Mhm.
want to be trendsetters.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Love it.
So then
Okay.
I looked up another statistic here to find out
Hmm.
how many videos are posted every day on TikTok.
Hmm.
34 million.
Oh
And the
my
majority of it
gosh.
is original content, right? Life
34
hack. I know
million.
34 billion. That's kind of crazy.
That's
But life
terrifying.
hacks, creative new cooking shortcuts, original songs, even. And so now that I'm like looking at the statistics, okay,
Hmm.
actually, there is a lot of. I agree with you, Lindsay. When I first started thinking about this, it seems like everything's a
Yeah.
trend, everything's repeated, but there's so much
Yep.
original content that it's actually easy to support this opinion as well.
Love it. But I love that it's so important what we're saying here is each paragraph says something different, right? We have both sides of the argument. And I think this might be something students forget to do. Is that possible, Aubrey,
Oh,
sometimes in an
absolutely.
argument
Well, and it
essay?
depends on the question, right?
Yeah.
So, this question, it's interesting. You have options because you're
Hmm.
given this. Some people today argue that media has become increasingly unoriginal. And the
Hmm.
actual question is, to what extent do you agree or disagree? So, you could write an opinion essay with your opinion in both paragraphs, supported with separate ideas and details,
Okay.
or you can do what we're doing here, where we write an argument essay and we defend the side we don't agree with. And then we
Okay.
share our own opinion and defend the side we do agree with.
I see.
That often is easier because it's easier to come up with an idea that supports both sides and details. Sometimes it's harder
Mhm.
to come up with multiple reasons for one side.
That's true. That's true. So we really have some freedom then to choose how we want to answer our question,
Right.
right?
But it depends on the topic, right?
Depends on
Sometimes
the
if the
topic.
topic says, support both sides or give
Hmm.
reasons for each of these arguments and support your
Hmm.
opinion, something like that. Sometimes your task two topic will require you to do this, to write an argument essay where you're supporting both sides of an issue.
Okay, good to know all of this. This is great. Okay, Aubrey, we're back from break. And now, should we give an example of what this essay would look like once it's built out and show our
Yes,
listeners?
exactly.
Okay.
You heard sort of the brainstorm throwing out some little details. So we want to give you these full body paragraphs. We would write an
Hmm.
introduction and then would have that first body paragraph first. Do you want to read that for us,
Yeah.
Lindsay?
Okay, here's how I would open the essay. So, one reason many people believe that, or the first body paragraph. One,
Exactly, right? We
yeah,
assume you've already got your
yeah.
introduction, you restated the
Hmm.
topic, you shared your opinion,
Good.
and
Yeah.
this is that first body
These
paragraph
are
that we
just the two
brainstormed.
paragraphs. Okay. One reason many people believe the media is becoming unoriginal is the influence of trends on social media platforms, where the same content is endlessly replicated. In particular, apps encourage users to create different versions of the same video using identical sounds, which limits originality. As a shining example, when Taylor Swift released her latest album, TikTok was flooded with videos of people dancing to her song Opalite. Rather than producing unique ideas, around 3 million videos were created using the same choreography and this single sound.
All right, band nine paragraph. We
Wow,
have
stunning.
interesting introductory sentences. We have linking phrases as a
Hmm.
shining example. In particular,
Yeah.
rather than producing unique ideas, comma, these are band nine linking phrases, and then really high scoring vocabulary as
Hmm.
well, right?
Yeah, so we're arguing that side, the one side of yes, it's becoming more unoriginal, rather. But now we're
Mhm.
going to flip to the other side in your second body paragraph. Aubrey, what does that look like?
All right, I'll read it for us. Nevertheless, I believe that the media is still overwhelmingly original, as most creators actively strive to produce fresh content. In fact, the vast majority of videos introduce new ideas because users are eager to become trendsetters. TikTok alone sees around 34 million videos posted every day, and most of these showcase innovative ideas such as life hacks, creative cooking shortcuts, and even newly composed songs. Moreover, even when creators participate in a trend, they typically add their own perspective, humor, or cultural twist, effectively transforming a shared format into something distinctive.
Hmm.
Are you
Yeah.
convinced, Lindsay? I'm
Yeah. I
curious.
don't know. I have to think
It's
about it a little
right.
more. I don't know if I'm convinced.
I could see both
Um,
sides for
yeah, I
sure.
can see both sides, but I definitely am convinced that if we have an opportunity to choose an argument essay, that's probably what I would choose, right?
I agree.
Because it's easier to provide, like you said, Aubrey, provide both sides and not necessarily have a second reason for one side, I
Yeah.
think.
It's
Yeah.
really interesting. It does depend on the topic. Sometimes you
Yeah.
will hit a topic where you feel like I cannot support the other side. For
Okay.
example, what if your topic was about children using technology? Like, do you
Yeah.
feel like they should be limited in the time they use or not? It would be
Right,
really
right, right.
hard for me to defend the side that says, no, they should have no limits.
Yeah, that's a good
So it
point. That's a
depends
good
on the
point.
question, but a question like this, if you can come up with a reason for both sides, I agree. It's easier to come up with those ideas, the details, the examples, new vocabulary, because it's the different, the other side of the coin.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just a side point, a little bonus thing to point out today is I like how we have a nice transition phrase from paragraph one to paragraph two,
Mhm.
nevertheless. That's a really nice phrase to because I'm not starting cold. It would be weird if I just started by saying, I believe that the media is still over. It has to connect, right? Into
Yes,
what we just
absolutely.
said.
In fact, in our IELTS course, we provide you these templates,
Yeah.
and one of them is the sentence you use to begin that paragraph. And
Hmm.
this is how we recommend, right? Something
Good.
like, nevertheless, I believe that, because you should be restating your opinion here. It was in the introduction. You
Yeah.
should restate it here. And this is sort of the best organization is to share that other side and then have a strong linking phrase here, like, nevertheless, I believe, and then you're going to share your reason for the other side.
Yeah, guys, and you get a clean list of those transition phrases and exactly how to do this in a very elegant band seven or higher way inside our course, which is over at allearsenglish.com/KEYS. Aubrey, is there a final takeaway for today?
Yeah, brainstorm, practice brainstorming, right? If you can't do it in 5 minutes, brainstorm like 5 task 2 essays for every one you write. You have to be
Mm,
able to get that down so that you can come up with ideas and examples for any topic in 5 minutes. And then the writing part is pretty easy. You have to have
yep.
those ideas.
Yeah, like we said, it's a discipline. Preparation for
Yes,
IELTS is truly, it's like preparing for the Ironman, as we said before,
it's
right?
true.
Preparing for a
Yes.
marathon. You need a study plan. You need to know exactly what you're doing each day. And again, get the resources you need, guys. All right, Aubrey, thanks for being on the show. Good stuff
Awesome.
today.
Thanks,
All right,
Lindsay. See you guys next time.
talk soon. Bye.
Bye.